Yes, you're both perfect. Now let's try this.
Ooh, I like
Hello,
that.
hello. I'm glad. I hope it is as similar as possible to some of the stories. Welcome to the release party for Dark Dreams. For Dark Dreams letting in the night and letting into the day. Raz is in letting in the night, and I'm in letting in the day.
Yay.
Oddly enough, our stories are a tiny bit similar. We tell about the past.
Yeah. Yep. Like recollection type stories.
Yes, that is the word I cannot come up with. I appreciate that. Uh, so, uh, the story. Let's start from the beginning. These stories were about offbeat romances with a horror twist. Something that you would not expect happening in the end. And I've loved them. We have stories about ghost boyfriends, we have stories about ghost uncles who aren't happy with the fact that you found love and he didn't.
Yeah.
Recollections of dead loved ones that we may or may not have killed ourselves. And many, many more.
Nice.
The blurb for Letting in the Night was a dark anthology of romance with a twist. Some dreams are so dark you can only handle them in the night. And then for Dark Dreams Ready for the Day, it's a dark anthology of romance with a twist. Some dreams are so dark you can only handle them in the light of the day.
I'm assuming there aren't that many vampire stories in that one.
No.
Unless they're hiding from the vampires.
Dun dun dun. And that's the real horror right there.
Where'd it go?
I only remember one vampiric story, but multiple ghost stories.
Yeah. There we go.
That helps. And my background is from one of the artists, Melanie D. There's art of elves and frogs, art of killing vampires.
The Frog Prince.
And my background is the Stanley Hotel. Like, I'm afraid that one day I'm going to do this and the twins are just going to be back there in the background. And I won't have even switched the file for the background. I'll just move and they'll be there.
You know that I've mentioned this before, and there's the Timberline Hotel too. We're part of that, and that's what that carpeting is called.
Yeah, yep.
At least in it's funny because they have that carpeting. Totally swirling off here, but that carpeting is one of the options you can get in Wizard 101. And I decorated my casino with it, and it's called Timberline. So like all of these little children are, and those of us adults that still play, are like decorating things with stuff from the Timberline Hotel. It's like
I did give that game a pretty good shot for like a week solid, and I was just a weekend. I'm like, I like it, but like I have a problem with MMOs. Like I get really into them for like a week or two, and then everything becomes so repetitive that I'm just meh. If I want repetitive things that I don't have to, if I want repetitive, they have to be things that I don't have to think about. But I can just like click games and stuff like that. Like I can do those because they're repetitive and there's no thought involved. But like repetition and thought, can't do it.
Definitely understandable.
But back to the book. Sorry, I'm excited to hear because I haven't got. I'm a bad friend in that I haven't gotten to know too much about the books yet, but I was waiting to hear about them on release and such. So
Yes, and then you were invited to the release party.
yay!
Yeah.
And Tosca
We
and
love
I are
you.
happy.
We know Patty's out sick. No, a couple
Mel's
people are out
out.
sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel's out sick.
And everybody else is doing their own thing.
Yeah,
So
and just not here today. So yeah. 2 authors from the collection and Adele. That's what you got. And we're going to make this work because we're awesome. And this anthology is equally awesome.
there's so much great art. There's so much great poetry. You know what? Hold on a second.
I'm holding on.
Yes,
my
don't
lighter.
run away. You're not allowed.
Yeah, I'm actually sick still too, as many people learned earlier from the video we did earlier today. But I'm trying to hold it together, man. I'm trying. So if you guys see me mute or like do this,
I appreciate
because I
it.
don't want to kill you by coughing into the microphone.
Okay.
It's not contagious. By a microphone, anyway.
No.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a whole other problem. Different kind of computer virus, I guess. Ooh, we should write a story about that. That'd be a fun story.
Ooh.
I'm sure it exists
Yes.
somewhere, and I just don't know.
I'll just be here doing
I know.
random sound effects tonight.
That's fine. Well, you know what?
I can play sound effects too. I got a whole board over here, and I still don't know what most of it
so
does.
the only artist that has given us are we supposed to? Is the question.
Are we supposed to what?
Know what any of it does. What any of it
I
means.
mean, they're
So,
party
Raz.
labeled.
What? Tell us about your story.
So it is constructed of words and paragraphs. There are adjectives, there are adverbs, there are nouns, there's commas, and lots of punctuation.
And did I get a good video of Dayton?
Yeah, you did actually get a good video, Dayton. So I'm in one of those like weird moods. Like anytime the kids ask me, like, "Can I see your lighter?" I will literally just describe my lighter to them and read the warning label until they finally ask me to use it.
But do you have prepositional
works.
phrases?
Some, but I've learned to cut down on some of those. You know, because I kind of was an overuser of prepositional phrases at one point in time in my writing career.
That was
I
something.
understand.
Yeah, we had to hang my mom out to dry on those for a little bit once. She was writing a, pardon me, a paper for her master's, and I was overlooking it, and her secretary was as well. And I think we found like one paragraph that had somewhere, we cut it down. I believe it started off with like 20 prepositional phrases.
What? How long are her paragraphs?
Very.
If it's more than 3
And
to
then-
5 sentences,
and then it
there's
was
a
like-
problem.
Well, no, it was just all prepositional phrases in a row.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And so it was like in the, of the, with the, for the, you know, kind of thing going on. And
Yeah.
we cut her down to like 11, and then we're like, okay, now you're going to stop this. Now you're going to make multiple sentences and cover these things without that. And so it
Yeah.
was quite the education. It was one of those like, holy shit, I didn't know somebody could actually write like that.
It's
And
hilarious.
you didn't even do it intentionally.
No.
One thing I've learned and like put a lot of thought to it in paragraph wise is having dyslexia and reading as many books as I do. Like sometimes I'll struggle with a longer paragraph. So something that I've always done since more so the last couple of years, I've been fine tuning it. I'll go like 3 to 5 sentences on a paragraph. Even if it's got the same like content or main line, I'll break up the paragraph with some dialogue or something, just so you're not with dyslexia trying to suffer through a giant block of text. Like it's so much easier for me to read things and at a quicker pace that way. So I've been trying to write that way too with format. I've been playing with it over the years. But yeah, so my story for real, I'll give you the real answer. This started out, as I've mentioned recently, kind of as a love story involving a character I'm writing for an urban fantasy named Seth Ridlock. He's a bard in modern times, and that's kind of what it was. But it was for a school assignment, and the only part of it that existed, it was a very small part of the story. It was the opening all the right up into where he asks the questions to the girl and she answers them correctly and they get out of there and go home or whatever. And that was it. It was just one full scene that I had to write for an assignment that just slowly started growing on me. So I started adding to it. And then I realized it did not belong in the urban fantasy setting, that this was something different. And then I talked to Dell and my roommate / best friend Jason. Within like 10 minutes of each other, I had a conversation that went the same exact way where they were both like, wait a minute, what if the story is this? And they both said it to me like almost word for word, which is creepy because they've never even met each other, like really spoken to each other. So it was like totally like, oh my God, this is it. And then I started writing it and Matt came down. And Matt came down to the basement. I read him what I had. And then he also said something very similar to the two of them. I'm like, okay, yep, that's where this is going. That's the direction. Because I was going to do like serial killer with it. But that's where I was headed. And then it just all changed on me, man. It just completely changed.
I do like that story. I'm interested in seeing how it all ended up. So
yeah, I'm really proud of this one. I mean,
you should be.
I like how it works.
Yeah, I've never written a vampire story. I've always wanted to, but I always tell myself I'm not going to write one just for the sake of writing it. But if something I'm writing ever happens to go that direction, I'll embrace it. And that's pretty literally what happened this time around. But it just took all three of you guys pointing out to me that that's what it was. I didn't want to believe that that's what it was, but like there's no denying it at a certain point. It's just a matter of who's the vampire in that situation. I had a lot of fun, and that's actually a lot of advice I got from Dell specifically, to leave that vague for as long as possible with certain phrases and mannerisms and wordings. Like I write that line like right up till towards like 3/4 of the story, where like you think it might be a vampire, but you're not sure, but then you don't know which one is the vampire, or if they both are, what the fuck's going on.
Exactly.
I like to include a lot of vagueness, or unless it's necessary, you don't know what any of my characters look like.
Yeah.
So things like that, I think add to immersion for the readers, because they're totally investing their own projections of what their head is coming up with, since they aren't like, and she looked just like Melanie Griffith, and she was walking down wearing a black pencil skirt and this kind of top with these little ruches, and it's just like, nah, dude, just tell the story. Nobody cares.
Take the time to describe some characters if it's important, but like in shorts, I almost never really do, and unless it's specific to a plot or something and it matters. Yeah, I won't. In shorts, I write. I'm not going to take up the space and waste your time. I'm just going to get into the story.
Yeah. In my story, all you have to know is she's wearing scrubs.
Yep.
And see, that would be the only. Like, if you had somebody who was very striking, you might be like, and she wore a suit that was probably from Prada or something like that, but that's all you have to do. You don't have to.
Yeah, because that not only tells you what she looks like, though, that's also kind of a hint towards her personality, like in her psyche, to wear a suit specifically from Prada. So you're actually kind of doing like double, triple duty there with just that one line. It tells you a lot about the character. Yeah. Yeah,
and it doesn't tell you anything else about them, but it does give you like. And you don't say what suit from product. You just let it go.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's cream linen or red or
whatever the reader's mind sees is lovely. The only artist that has given me permission to show any of her stuff would be Sonia, because Melanie Dabbs, I should say. I cannot say Melanie when she was born. So she will always be Sonia to me, but she's Melanie Dabbs and Melanie D. And she has done some wonderful work. I think my favorite one so far is this.
I love that so much.
My dad loved Conan so much, he had him tattooed on his body. We watched Conan. We have Conan books. So her last gift to Daddy is this.
It's so amazing, man. I love that.
This is from the fall, I think the October newsletter.
Nice.
This is from Pride Month.
Oh, wow.
My daughter asked for a rainbow reaper, and it just seemed perfect to put in that newsletter. And this is from the anthology. She didn't give it a name, but it's lovely.
It makes me think the little girl, the the girl reading almost gives me an Alice in Wonderland kind of vibe. And then
I
with
was going to
the
say Lily
Amy
Madwip.
too. Oh, okay. I
Just
could see
because
that
of what's
too.
behind her, like the angel, the demon, that kind
Yeah.
of
I was in separate.
Yeah,
concept,
I get
yeah.
you though. I see the Alice. But the innocence and the figure behind her just makes me think Lily Madwip.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I can see that too. I like this suit jacket he's wearing too.
Yeah, that's suave,
yeah.
man. I noticed suave is a fun word that I don't say as much in modern times, so I've been trying to work it into conversations lately to bring it back. It's a nice word.
When I think of
Suave.
suave, I think of shampoo and conditioner.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why
Because
is that?
it's cheap and it works
It's
well
cheap,
enough.
and it's the only Spider-Man shampoo and conditioner that does not give my kid a rash.
That's a plus.
It's weirdly enough one of the products not the conditioner so much, but the shampoo for my hair it needs a good washing. It's kind of gone out of curls right now, but if you're maintaining the curly girl stuff, there's all these like very expensive but very nice products you can use. But for the regular washing, Suave is actually one of the shampoos they recommend above a lot of other more expensive ones.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
to use. So
we get these giant fucking bottles with pumps on the top of it all the time. Like,
I do too.
oh
Yep.
yeah.
no, yeah.
I have like so many people. We need the giant bottle.
So I'm
And
obsessed
body
because
wash.
apparently I have had this red mark on my forehead for like a week or more now. And
Mhm.
I've been trying to figure out what the fuck I did to myself because I didn't notice it until right before we went live today was the first time I even actually like looked and saw it.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I think what happened is I think somebody shot me in the forehead and like I'm eternal. So this is just what's left of the bullet wound healing up. It's about that size and shape too. It's creepy. No, I probably smashed my head on something at the haunt. And I was just moving so quick and so busy, it just didn't register. That happens to me a lot. I've got bruises, cuts, all kinds of shit everywhere from haunt season. So pretty sure that's what it was. But I know it's now that I keep fucking staring at it, man. That's all I can look at.
This is high.
I need to just glue a googly eye right here and get it over with.
I've stopped myself from falling by throwing my head at the wall because I was carrying things and I couldn't use my hands.
Yeah.
So, and I've shut my head in car doors multiple times. And yes, I know, like I shut my hair in more than my head, but I have actually accidentally, don't even ask because like inside no, it shouldn't happen that way. But yeah,
I've shut my own head in the car door doing that. Because I was reaching, I was looking in, I was kind of like starting to get out, but my hand was just way quicker than me standing up.
Yeah, I've opened it into my head, but I've also closed it into my head. And
sorry, there was a spider on my laptop. I had to make it fly away.
I was thinking the Suave Spider-Man shampoo and conditioner. I think the reason why it doesn't break him out is because it's the only brand that doesn't actually use spider webs for authenticity.
No, the bad thing is random soaps will give my oldest a staph infection.
I believe it. A lot of the ones from the 80s that had the old school red dye that they don't use anymore, I would break out bad rashes everywhere. And it seemed like every kid shampoo there was back in the 80s contained that specific type of red dye. Even Jell-O had it in the 80s for a while, so I couldn't even eat I had an internal issue because I would eat Jell-O and like the Jell-O jigglers was the big thing I remember in the 80s. And my grandma would make one of them. I'd just eat them, and I was getting like violently sick. I was having they looked inside. There was like sores and rashes in my mouth and down my throat. And that's when we found out that dye specifically that thankfully they don't use anymore.
They have these shampoos and conditioners for kids that are from like all the cartoons. They have like Paw Patrol, Frozen, and whatever. And of course, my kid wants them. And there for a little while, it hurt her because I had to say no. So yeah, we this is a launch party, and we're having the weirdest conversation.
Yes,
this is why the other people are. I wish they had come. So, okay. Have you guys ever been in a nursing home setting?
Yes, many times.
When you were in the nursing home, did you ever see Any non-corporeal people?
Oh yeah, there's stories about that actually.
Not that I am aware of, because I was very. The one that I spent the most time in would probably have been the one that was up above my house, kind of by the cemetery, oddly enough, when I was a kid. And
One-stop shop. That's easy.
Yeah, but my mother worked there for a while, and it was like we'd go up as like the kids from the elementary school would go up and sing for them and do different things and stuff. And so that was the one I probably spent the most time in. And then visiting people.
Yeah. You've given me a screwed up mental image of like this giant slide contraption that can like change its height and direction, that when someone passes away, they just kind of move it up to their window and push them out, and the other end just goes right into a fresh grave. It's like,
I mean, how like
that doesn't happen anymore.
H.H. Holmes, they got rid of that after.
I mean, a preacher does the sliding part though, so you're blessed on your way out. Like, I mean, it's a true like one-stop shop here. It's like 3 businesses all in one, real quick, you know.
I want that story, but luckily that has not happened at any nursing home I've worked at or seen between here and Tennessee.
I mean, it could be a service they could charge more for, you know? I mean, I could definitely see someone paying a little bit extra for a loved one to have one final exciting experiences, you know? And that way, also, you're sure that they've actually passed. Because back in the day, they would bury people in diabetic comas and everything, like bury people alive. Actually had a great aunt that was buried alive because of a diabetic coma.
Did they get her back? Like,
no. The reason why they found out was she had diabetes, obviously, and someone heard something. A lot of the old, like where she was buried, was really old cemetery, so like the ground was really loose. You could kind of hear things a little bit. It was vented weird, like because it was like the night she got buried, and it was filled in, but they always left this little thing like from the old school days, like with the bell, except for there was no bell in it. There was no bell and cord down there. It was just a little shaft. And they heard her screams coming from the shaft. And by the time they had actually unburied her, even though it had that shaft with air to it and everything, she just didn't make it. And there was like scratch marks, pieces of her fingernails on the inside of the lids and everything.
That's horrible.
But like you would make sure that they were deceased because they'd go on that one little final ride, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing with the pipes. That's always, it's because they aren't long enough for the oxygen to actually keep recycling.
Yeah.
I think if you made them wider, it might make a difference. But then you have like, okay, we've got some like 6-inch PVC diameter going down there.
That's what I was thinking. You'd have to have PVC or something to keep it open.
And I think that would aerate underground too much. And it might make the actual like dirt that packs around the coffin now less stable, I would imagine, over time and weather.
Yeah, the ring-a-ding-ding bells were a good idea.
Yeah, they were good. No, you just burn everybody. So even if you were in a coma, oops.
Oh boy.
But a lot of the burn things do have an intercom on the inside. If it makes anybody feel better, at least some of the ones I've seen actually have this little intercom system on the inside that you can hit a button.
So they can hear you screaming as you're being.
Yep. All of them have it. Like a lot of the old ones don't, but some of them actually do. And I was, what's that for? And I was told, oh yeah, that's in case someone's actually alive and they're going there. No one noticed. I'm like, but they still have to bust the lid. Well, no, we take them out of the coffin. Like it's just the body that's in there these days.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
You rent the coffin.
I was like, but by the time you put them in, like, even if you get them out, like, what are the odds of their survival with the amount of heat that starts that quickly? Well, it's not good. And that was just the end of the conversation. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, you're right. It's not good odds. Okay. Be kinder to not have the intercom system, I think, at that point.
And this is why you don't let a bunch of horror writers hang out together when we're trying to talk about stories.
Yes.
I mean, that's a trope that's been used in horror stories, though. Like the person that's still alive being cremated. I mean, even Tales from the Crypt pulled that off a couple times. Like that's a good one.
Yeah, have it on
Poe
disc.
kind of started it
Yeah.
because of his giant fear. I'm sure other people have written about it before him as well because it was a big fear. But Poe was the like, I'm really fucked up about this, guys. Let me express it to you in multiple stories. And yeah.
Oh yeah. So what if Poe was buried alive? Because all his issues with opium and alcohol, what if he was just in a drug-induced coma when he died? And the thing he was afraid of most is actually how it kind of ended up for him.
Well, didn't he get one of the ring-a-ding-ding bells because he was scared of? I've never
He
visited Poe's
did, and
grave.
but he was also not wealthy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
Yes.
but
maybe it was missing the cord, or someone stole the cord out, just like they did to my great great aunt. Because when they first put it
that's
up, they had a
real
cord.
And so that was in less than a day that it was stolen. And
But okay, so they're called funeral cords. It's one of the terms for them, and they sell for a lot of money, believe it or not.
that's really weird.
You know, it's super weird. I've done a lot of research on this, and some places still do it. Some you can still request it to this day. Like some graveyards will still do it for you, and it's really expensive to do these days. But having someone's funeral cord or death cord is like that's like a big hot ticket item in like the paranormal world, and just like macabre collectors and stuff. It's a big deal. Like you find those, it's a lot of money. So people
like
have
when they
traditionally
sell
gone
them.
around stealing them.
Is that like when people would sell the hanging cords
Yeah.
that someone was hung with?
Yep.
One of my favorite parts of this is kind of morbidly weird, but Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, there's somebody who's getting ready to be hung, and the gallowsman is very, very polite. And it's just like, would you mind signing this every couple of feet? Because I like to cut it up afterwards, and that gets me more for the rope. It's like, okay. That's fun.
Yeah.
And then, he writes all this stuff, and then people are like, oh, that's not real. And it's like, yes, it is. Then you read other stuff, and I was totally convinced that treacle mines existed. So I was trying to convince my mom, and she's just like, I think you're wrong.
I mean, there's stuffing mines on Mars. I learned that from the Ancient Aliens, in South Park. It's totally a real thing. They're just the Thanksgiving stuffing mine.
So, Jenny, what is your story about? Please don't say it's about stuffing mines on Mars.
It's totally about stuffing mines on Mars.
Okay, so Sage comes home and she's crying in the driveway because the night before the little boy was there again. He's become a very big part of the nursing home. Nobody knows where he came from. In all actuality, in real life, nobody actually knows where the little boy's ghost came from, because he was based on a real little boy ghost in the nursing home in Rising Fawn, Georgia. No idea. But he is the harbinger of death of the nursing home. And he will sing to them little kids' songs as they're passing. So she's freaking out.
That's scary as shit.
Come home, start crying in the driveway, and she's freaking out. Luckily, she has an amazing wife.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, those little kid songs, depending on which ones they themselves are fodder for horror. If you go back and do the research for them and stuff, like people are like, "Oh, Ring Around the Rosie, so much fun." No, it's not really.
So I found a way to make them all worse.
How's that?
So there are albums worth of British children singing the songs, right? So if you mess with the timing a little bit and add in realistic sound effects, it is disturbing as fuck. One of the haunts I did years back, Haunted Butcher House. We had to design a kids' room, and I was playing Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko. I had the full head to toe costume, ears, everything, all of it. And I was pretending to be an animatronic with an axe. I'd do like the short movements and stuff. And there was a little girl actually in the room, right? It was my niece, Lily, actually. so we were doing this whole act, but like I had a crib built into a wall. I had an actual Victorian porcelain dolls hanging from nooses from the ceiling. I had stuffed animals. Like there was a Winnie the Pooh with a bag over it said like asphyxiation. Like it was a fucked up kids room, and I'm like, how can I make this worse? Sound. So I downloaded these albums and I took some of the songs, and this is what I did. Like I just changed the pitch. I changed the, I added phaser effects, and then I took some and I would just slow them down and add effects. And I remember I found the Teddy Bear Picnic song, and it's like it was like that kind of weird tone and like
Wow.
speed, but I added the sound effects of people screaming in the background, and it was almost too much for me after I made that. And of course, I still used it in the haunt. It was brilliant. I need to recreate that for our haunt now for the nursery.
You'd share that with us so that.
Oh, I don't own that. That was like 20,000 computers ago. I'm pretty sure, probably one of my many lost files. But like, you can do a lot with nursery rhymes, but they got to be sung by British children because it's way more disturbing and it's easier to run like effects through it. It's messed up.
I always got amused by them because Papa liked to sing a lot of songs when he'd just do little ditties, and a lot of them were like playground style songs. Mm-hmm. And you could always tell what mood he was in, because there was like one day he was walking around and he was like, if you go out in the goddamn woods today, you better go in the sky. It was just like, okay, I don't know what pissed Papa off at the teddy bears, but damn, he is not in a good mood.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Then he sang a dirty one once, and I asked him later what it was, and he's like, where'd you hear that? And I said, you were singing it earlier. And he goes, that's not a healthy one for you to hear. You don't need to know about that. I'm like, Papa, I'm 40 something. And he's just like, oh, well, it's still a naughty song. I shouldn't have sang that for you.
That's epic.
Yeah. So, okay, what day is the book releasing?
Tomorrow.
Wait,
yes.
Tomorrow? Okay, and is that going to be live?
At 11 p.m. tonight. You can find it where all fine books are sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guy in the van at the library.
Because at 11 o'clock it'll release on Kindle. Let me put it this way. But at midnight it should be able to be bought everywhere.
Okay. Awesome. And there's 2 different books. Can you buy them together as a set?
You can buy. Yeah, you can. Well, they haven't been put together as a omnibus at the moment. You can buy both books separately at either retailer. But I'm slightly saddened that Raz got to be in the book with my sister, but I didn't.
Uh-huh.
It's like, no.
Not done with one with you and one with her, see?
Yes, you got to be in one with both of us.
Yes. Now Jenny and I Friday night.
You can call me Jenny. Everybody knows me as both names. It's fine.
We're going to be doing one together next year for the charity one, the anthology we're talking about doing for Elliott and Fae Corps.
The Elliott
we'll all be
Menagerie?
together. Menagerie, yeah.
I just
We'll
don't know what the theme is yet. So
we'll figure it out. We have time. If you're an author interested in helping out with charity and writing into an anthology with the Owlite authors and the various people that have been on the show with us as well, well, let us know. Get a hold of us. We're going to get some book together.
Yes.
And then we'll be doing a release party like we're doing this one for these awesome books that are coming
But hopefully
out.
with more people.
yes, I hope with more people. I had hoped to see all the beautiful artists, all the beautiful poets, all the beautiful writers, all of them. But they all are doing their thing, and we still love them. I have enjoyed reading them and seeing their art. So please go check out the anthologies, and also search them out separately and read their stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting writing for an anthology because, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people that just enjoy reading them that aren't writers know about this. So what happens is we get a call, not a phone call. It's called a submission call. Call for stories. It'll get posted. And they'll tell you generally what genre or genres are accepted and a theme, because most anthologies have some type of theme that they also want, including, along with the genres. So you basically have to either A, hope you have a story that you've done nothing with. It's like in your backlog of stories that you can use, or B, you have to write something specifically, like as soon as you get the call, because there's generally only a month sometimes 2 months at best I've ever seen like for an open submission window, but they're usually not crazy huge. And then when you submit, you have to follow every guideline to the letter. When they tell you how to format it, you format it that way. If they tell you it needs to you need to at least do some editing work on it, you do the editing work before you send it. If it's a larger company that has like hundreds of submissions, not doing any of those things immediately disqualifies you.
Mhm.
No matter how good your story is, they will literally take it and be like, "Oh, didn't follow directions." Boom.
Yeah.
So you'll get a shit ton of rejection letters.
Whereas Fae Corps
Best way
has
to-
already put up the next one for the fairy story one. So if you have a fairy story about fairies that you would like to submit to Fae Corps, Fae Corps Publishing at gmail.com to become part of our amazing team of awesome people, please do so.
Indeed.
As you were
I'm actually
saying.
working on a story for that one already too. It's about a paranormal game that I've created specifically. Michelle helped me create this like whole like complicated paranormal game that you can play at home with a mirror and like candles and different items to summon Fae. So I literally went through all the work with her of designing this whole game. So I'm really excited to finally actually put that to the story I didn't originally intended. I've been holding on to it for like 3 years, like in my back pocket.
I have some ideas for that one as well already. I was coming up with a few last night, and one of them, and I bet you can guess what this theme would be about, would be entitled "If Fishes Were Horses." But
If fishes were horses.
Yeah.
Seahorses.
Kelpie.
Yeah, I know. I like Kelpies quite a bit.
But yeah, I had some various
My neighbors made it home.
stories I had an idea for. So it should be a fun jaunt to attempt.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you that are newer to writing and submissions, and I'm not saying that I'm a pro by any means, because I'm not, but one thing I have learned is that keep track of everything. Keep a spreadsheet with, if you have something out for submission, where it's at, what format it was used in, reformat everything when you get it, if possible, to the like 3 or 4 main types of formatting that you need to have it ready for. And then, put all your notes next, because you don't want to send something out to 2 different publishers at once, because if you get picked by one, then you have to withdraw it from the other one, and it might not get the one that you wanted.
Yeah. And those are usually in the directions too, because some specifically will say that simultaneous submissions are okay, but like you said, just let them know if it's accepted elsewhere. Some only want you to submit it to them.
Yeah.
Some allow reprints too. So if you put out a story, wait a couple years or whatever, and some will you usually get paid a lot less for reprints. But some places will do reprints, and that'll all be in your like the guidelines for the whole thing. But you got to follow all those rules, man. It's so important to pay attention to all those details. I know Patty makes it super easy with Fae Corps. Honestly, she allows reprints, within a certain time period. There's a lot of stuff she does that really makes the submission calls easier, and the window is a little smaller too, so it makes it easier to kind of know when it's going to be months ahead of time. Because if you've done anything for Fae Corps before in the past, like you generally get kind of a heads up, like well ahead of time.
Yes, if you're in the Fae Corps Discord, you have the ability to find out about all the upcoming anthologies ahead of time, because she has made a channel, so to speak. I guess that's what they're called, for all the ones that are up and at least 2 or 3 in the future. So you can be ready ahead of time, because she's always planning for new stuff.
Oh, definitely.
She's always writing. Her brain's always moving. She's always making beautiful things, and she wants us to make beautiful things.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't get to talk about this much on the Padded Cell we did on the Elliott Network, but I got to hang out with Patty actually in person. She drove the damn near 4 hours with some friends of hers all the way down to my haunt to see me, and I actually got to take a break while I was directing the show and actually take them through it. So not only did she get to go through it, she actually got to go through it with me. So that was a super exciting experience for both of us. I know we Friday had requested a picture taken of her and I together, and I know we got that picture handled because I've seen it, so it exists. I got this really cool skull necklace from her, which I like quite a bit. And I also got this really cool tarantula, but I've got that in another drawer that's not down here at the moment, or I'd show you that too. But it was super cool to get the chance to like stop and talk to her and hang out. And I got her talking with a new friend of mine this year that's a parent of two of our employees who owns a business that runs conventions. So there's a convention I'm getting the information for, but Outlight already has a table to our first convention. Oh, yep, there's us.
Yay!
I was laughing my ass off about something. I don't even remember what it was now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, two of the most amazing people in my life. I love you guys.
It was a fun night. It was so cool to see her. I got like the biggest hug before, like right when she came up, and then again after. I messed with him a little bit in the line. I came up behind him and I was like, "Is there a problem?" But yeah, it was cool. They refused a discount or free tickets. They would not allow it. So I made them accept a ticket upgrade. And Fred was really cool about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, those are your people. Oh, that's the publisher." He's like, I don't read your books and I feel bad. So here's what we're doing. They get in free. And I'm like, "No, they're coming to support the haunt, Fred." And Fred's like, "Let's bump them up to VIP front of the line," which is like an extra $20. And so I finally got them to accept that. So right when they got there, skipped the whole line, walked all the way up behind another group that had also paid to skip the line. And so they were like the second group through the whole haunt that night.
Nice.
Right when we opened. So they got everybody like at the freshest. It was a good experience. It was a good time.
You know, I've never thought to ask this before, but it occurred to me that this would probably be a problem for me. Because how long does the haunt run from when you open it till when you close it at night?
As far as the customers are concerned?
Yes.
8 to 12. 12 is when we stop selling tickets. So if a group of like 200 people just randomly show up at 11:59, to buy a group tickets, we got to put them in the line. So that midnight can go to 1:30 in the morning, 2.
So how do you handle bathroom breaks? Does somebody like kind of talk to somebody who's doing a walk around in the thing and like they cover for them, or do you slow things down for a minute? Or
this is the first year where all of this has worked out like flawlessly. We got a really good section leader program that I designed. Every section of the haunt, all 4 sections have 2 different section leaders, one towards the front, one towards the back of the section, and they coordinate. Like, you got to go to a bathroom break, tell your section leader that's closest to you, but also you need to tell the people in the scene before and after you, so they can kind of work together and close that gap. And there's been a couple, there'll be a time or two or some of the new ones that just don't say anything. They just run to the bathroom and come back. But the more experienced ones that are around them, because we make sure to always put more experienced people around the less experienced people, just see it and automatically kind of closing the gap. So it's really worked out this year, man. Just staggering the experience throughout the haunt, and the section leaders kind of keep an eye on it, because that allows the section leader to also. Section leaders are people that know their section so well. They're leaders. They're very kind, and they used to be elected by the people, by their sections. And now we just started seeing it was the same people. People were voting to be elected, so we just started using a lot of the same people to kind of help guide things. But they can go over your scene and sit in it and like kind of do an act if they need to, or they can do their scene and go through a cutout, then be in your scene if they have to, then go back to their own. Like, having cutouts everywhere in the haunt that the public doesn't see for security and for reasons like that is so helpful, because we can get someone out to the bathroom from anywhere in the haunt and you won't even notice it until they're out in the hallway that goes to the bathroom, and then they just stay in character. Like, we have to stay in character in the hallways and in the bathroom. Now, we're not allowed to scare in the bathroom, though. That's a big no-no. Like, I've taught all of them, like, if someone's in there to go to the bathroom and they say something to you, you're in your costume, answer in character, but don't stand there and stare at them when they're in the bathroom. Like, don't run in there and, like, try and scare them. Like, we don't do that. Like, that's their bathroom time. Just calm down.
It's where people who are having panic attacks go to get away from things.
Yeah, and we did have an actor to year one and first in year 2 that would try to sneak and run into the bathroom to scare people, and we caught that and shut it down like pretty hardcore, and that hasn't been a problem since the beginning of year 2. So like we're pretty strict about stuff like that. Like, and if you've got somebody cornered and they're already fucking terrified, maybe back off. You've done your job. You don't need to keep taking it too far, because then you're going to ruin like haunts for that person, maybe for the rest of their lives. And if you do that, we don't want you, because everyone should be able to experience them within, reason.
Okay, sorry, I scrolled this off huge
Okay.
there,
No, I mean,
but it just
Even the
made me
normal
think,
parties,
like,
I remember previous parties, we would always squirrel to some degree anyway.
Well, that's fine. I was thinking about doing a reading of mine.
I
I
was
didn't
just
know
gonna
if you
ask
had
you that.
wanted to do a reading of yours. But
I've never read it out loud, but I can.
it's
Sure.
up to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me bring it up in my files, because I don't even know where it is.
Okay. I'll go ahead and get mine set up. There we go. Okay. I made it home and just sat in the driveway to breathe. The tears started rolling hard. I couldn't tell if it was relief, fear, or confusion that bothered me more than the night before. More than one resident has claimed they have seen the little boy before they passed, but I have never seen him before. The fact the fact he was sitting in the corner of the ceiling above Miss Catherine's bed singing Five Little Speckled Frogs like my youngest favorite girl does constantly throughout the day chilled me to the bones. As my mind was dealing with that fearful realization, Miss Catherine gave a final death rattle breath. Her spirit got up and walked through the wooden door, leaving an imprint of her face that even Imani hadn't seen. If another scene Imani had seen. If another CNA didn't see it too, she wouldn't have believed it. I can't tell if it's a real child or another type of being. None of us have for the past 3 generations. Like he is tied to the land but not the building. Is it something else other than a concerned boy? The passenger side car door opened, startling me out of my terrified thoughts. Marty sat down and shut the door. Oh, baby, was another recent death or an encounter that has you like this? She inquired as she rubbed my arm. Miss Catherine passed, and the little boy ghost was singing Tilly's song, I blurted, having no idea how else to put it. Cherry Pie, come inside, and I'll hold you on the couch while you tell me about it. She kindly directed me as she opened the door. I wiped my nose and eyes on the short sleeve of my scrub top and followed. We laid on the overstuffed couch. She threw a blanket on top of me and let me lay on her chest as I told her about finally seeing the little ghost boy. I walked in for my rounds. He was as they described him, brown pants with suspenders and a white shirt, so pale, sitting upside down in the corner, like his song would do something for her. It was soft and eerie sounding, I explained as tears fell down my face. Marnie stroked my hair as we talked. From all you have told me over the years, he doesn't like for residents to die alone. Does something about this bother you? She inquired, not understanding, not being mediumistic or spiritually inclined made some things hard to understand. Her first ghost experience happened on our first date. I took all the stories to heart. Even my Aunt Janice had stories of this little when she worked there. My grandmother had stories too. Neither said they truly understood. I didn't want Miss Catherine to pass alone, so I went to see if I was too late. Luckily, I was not, but he showed himself to me. I had pulled a chair to the side of her bed and just held her hand as her breathing began to get worse. I tried my best to sing. I just let the tears fall silently. I heard the little boy singing the speckled frog song. At her last breath, he showed himself and I fell out of the chair. While staring wide-eyed at him, she got up and walked through the door. Her body was still there. When I stood, I saw her face print in the door. I ran to get Amani to come look at the door. She saw it too. Marnie's shirt was damp from my tears. I jumped as Drops of Jupiter by Train started playing on her phone on the table beside the couch. Marnie turned it off. She smiled and said, "Cherry pie, let's go greet our babies."
Very
Nice.
nice. But when you said the cherry pie, that I think I mentioned this the other night. My grandmother, when she worked at a nursing home, had a patient who could only verbally say a couple of things, and the main one that she said was apple pie, I'm gonna die.
Oh yeah,
pie.
I had no idea about that when I wrote it. It's just a name that we were called by a relative as a kid. And I'm like, if you called your significant other that, that might be nice.
Now it makes me wonder if that's what it was a term of endearment she was talking about instead of it being, like actual apple pie.
Yeah.
She was just
Maybe. I'm a weird
letting people
southerner.
know that.
Possibly. It might help.
I actually like the simplicity in this one. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying that it is a simple story, because it's not a simple story. It's a very easygoing story that's got layers to it, and it's an easy read. It's an easy listen. But after you hear it, you find yourself going, wait, what? And then you've got to read it again, because like all the details like start kind of coming in at you. When I originally, like, because that's one of the ones I have read in this. It took me a good
Yeah.
3 or 4 times of like really like going through it and reading it and like digesting for a moment, and then going back and going, oh my god, like this is a lot more than what meets the eye. There's so much in this, like between the lines and beneath the surface on this one. I really liked it a lot.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
hope I projected that is multiple generations of scared.
Yeah, I am not familiar with the Speckled Frog song, so that's something I'm gonna have to go look up.
I'll send you a video of Sophia.
Okay. That'd be
Because
awesome.
that's where I got the idea for the song from. She would sing it constantly for hours.
Nice.
The only frog song I know is actually The Little White Duck, because it has a frog in it. So I'm like, but this doesn't sound like that.
I know a song about frogs in a log, but it's kind of perverted and messed up, so I'm not going to sing it right now. But catch me at Owlite after dark one night. And
Oh, that sounds
I
like
forgot it.
fun.
Now I have the hole in the bottom of the sea song.
Yeah. So, do you want me to read like a selection from it or the whole thing? I'm good either way.
You choose. Mine was really short, so I just read the whole thing.
This is actually one of my shorter stories, to be honest with you. I'll just go ahead and read the whole thing. Yeah, why not? This story is entitled "Got You Where I Want You." I originally wrote it, like I said, the original version of it, and as it became the horror version, while listening to the song "Got You Where I Want You" by The Flies on repeat, which you'll see very apparent in the way the song was written and the mentions that it uses. Got you where I want you. Weekend nights in downtown Dayton, Ohio are always chaotic. You've got an acting troupe doing Rocky Horror down at the Neon, karaoke at Ned's, live bands at the Night Owl, and an entire street dedicated to college clubs, dive bars, and cafes. It's a microcosm made up of every artistic scene, social hierarchy, and economic status, all in the span of a few blocks. Around here, the gossip is never ending. Everybody knows you, whether you know them or not. It's the kind of place where you can just as easily climb the ranks to local godhood or crumble into oblivion, all in the same night. Staying on top isn't easy, but it has its perks. It's easier for the less scrupulous amongst us, those like me. From sunset to sunrise, this place is ours, and everyone knows it. We walk among the sheep, and they thank us for it. Just that chance to warm their bleak, miserable lives by the fire of our ineffable glory. They'll never understand why they crave it, but they do. Tonight, my feet travel of their own accord. Down the side of a brick-lined street, I move without thought, trusting them to know the way. There are nightly rituals that must be attended to, old ghosts that must be remembered and given the proper tribute, palms that need greased, favors must be granted. Such is the way of the night. My thoughts turn inward, as they so often do when I'm on autopilot. As I pass my favorite old haunt, the building that once contained the Asylum nightclub, the most painful memory fights for the spotlight. The memory of her, the one that got away. I remember so many things about her vividly. I remember her laugh, the smile that made her eyes light up like diamonds, the way her skin felt against mine, and how she tasted. Most importantly, I think about the night we met. Like all the best and worst nights of my life, it all started with a song. I glanced up from my Camel Special Light 100 and saw her standing there. Her image filtered through the haze of smoke all around me, making her seem almost ethereal. The flies were blasting from the speakers in the back of the bar. I remember thinking that their song, Got You Where I Want You, that would be our song from now on. Ah, hey. There I was, sitting in a room packed full of people. Most of them I knew, but none of them mattered now. I let my smoke dangle from my bottom lip and stood, smoothed out my black and green checkered flannel and the Soundgarden tee on display beneath. A quick hand ran through my long dark hair on the move, a place for everything and everything in its place. Tell me your name. Suddenly I was a shark, swimming my way through the filthy sea of humanity in search of the next big meal that would keep me moving. I glided effortlessly through the throngs of college kids celebrating the end of finals week, for better or worse. I sailed through the reef of barflies and burnouts, vying for my attention and their next fix for whatever addictions plagued them. To them, I was a god. To me, they were nothing. I grabbed 2 beers from behind the bar and gestured for Nick to put it on my tab in one fluid motion. No words needed to pass between us. It was part of the routine. Finally, I circled her small gathering to get my bearings before going in for the kill. Maybe just a smile. I slid into the recently vacated chair on her left, slipping the beers under the table in front of us like a magician, but in reverse. I gave her a wink and a patented grin when she looked over at me, completely in tune with the song that was still chugging along with the rest of the bar. She grinned back and sipped my offering. So trusting. We were comfortable in that initial silence. It was clear by her actions that she believed that she was in control, silently sizing me up as the song played on, and I played the game. Could we talk for a while? I'm Sam, I offered. I know, was her only response, aside from the grin that hadn't left her face since the moment I sat down. It was the kind of reply that might shake the confidence of a lesser man, a simple move that bespoke the power she believed that she held over me. If she even knew my name, what else might she know? The game was afoot. Interested in another round? I asked, gingerly tilting my empty towards the bar. That depends, she replied, bright green eyes boring into me like a drill headed for the Earth's core. On? I asked, simply. If you can answer these 3 questions correctly, I'm all yours. I'll buy the next round and we'll see where the night takes us. Her grin turned mischievous as she laid out the rules of our exchange. I think you're smart. This was a woman that knew exactly what she wanted in a man and wasn't interested in wasting time. Rather than flee and run screaming into the night, I doubled down. Strong spirits were made to be broken. Shoot, I replied, matching the intensity of her gaze. Okay, question 1. The ending of Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Would you have stayed or gotten on the ship? There was no hint of humor in her voice when she spoke. She wasn't asking if I'd seen the movie, so much as implying that not having seen it marked me as inadequate in some way. It was a bold move and a quick way to separate the chaff. I didn't hesitate in my response. I'd be on the ship before they finished making the offer. Neri had it right. Why stick around and go through the normal routine when you could be out there, discovering the secrets of the universe and challenging yourself? Complacency is the death of progress. I could tell by the look on her face that I'd caught her off guard. Whatever she'd heard about me, it clearly wasn't much, or even accurate. She moved on to the next question as quickly as I'd answered the first. You sweet thing. What's the answer to the ultimate question of the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? A smugness radiated from her now at the query, a smugness that was clearly not deserved. 42, but that's not the complete answer. The complete answer would require a proper question, something like, how many roads must a man walk, or, I don't know, something equally subversive. I'd had that answer sitting in my back pocket for years. I was a little disappointed by that. No self-respecting connoisseur of popular culture would ever get that wrong. What sort of guys had she dated before that something like this had even become necessary? Perhaps I'd made a mistake this evening. Rare, but not impossible. I was about to say so long and thanks for all the fish when she hit me with the next and final question. Tell me your sign. Favorite class and why? Her eyes narrowed as those words fell from her ruby lips. That was a loaded question. You could almost ascertain someone's entire personality by their Dungeons & Dragons character. If I said cleric, it meant I was a caretaker. A rogue meant I was shady. A fighter or barbarian made me a meathead. A general magic user made me a bookworm. The list goes on and on. This question took even less time for me to answer than the others. There were few things I was as sure about in life as this. Bard. They're the most versatile of all the classes. They can become whatever a party needs in any situation. As jacks of all trades, they dip into every class. They're confident, creative, and excel at overcoming all the odds. Whether they're building up their comrades or tearing down the enemy, they do it in style. I said, with a calm and collected demeanor, as if I were stating some fact that everyone inherently just knew and agreed with. She took my hand in hers, and she gripped it tightly, then pulled me in to press her lips roughly against mine. In mid-kiss, she crawled right into my lap and wrapped her arms around me. Despite the strong chase of cheap beer and cleverly named cocktails, it was pleasant enough. When we came up for air, she pressed her forehead against mine and whispered gently, "Fuck the drinks. Marry me. I'm dying here." She'd taken me as much by surprise as I had taken her that night. In one instant, we had both become what we thought the other desired most. Two chameleons latching on to one another and going plaid. We ditched all pretenses and made the obligatory sophomoric sojourn to her place. 10 minutes later, I was in like phlegm. For days, weeks, and even months, we went on that way. We met at a different club or bar every weekend, and we fell in love all over again every night. She was a different woman every time we met, and I became her perfect companion. Each night, she asked me to marry her. We'd rush back to her place and fuck until she passed out from sheer exhaustion. Come morning, I'd be gone, along with her memory of me. It was a dangerous game. I knew that even then. Be it her personality, taste, or her very being, I was hooked beyond reason. I'd become a little more than the addicts I reviled, desperate for my next fix. I glanced up from my thoughts to the old dusty broken windows. If I could see myself, truly see myself, what would I see now? Would I see what so many others have seen? A demon lurking behind the eyes of a silver-tongued angel? My hands distinctively wrapped the high-collared trench, my proverbial armor tighter around my body. Whether it was to hide the old wounds or cover the place where my heart once beat, it made no difference. I lost myself to reverie again, tuning out the sounds of yuppies and anarchists fighting it out behind the low walls that separated private parking lots from the street. I focus now on happier times. All 1 year, 7 months, 4 days, 9 hours, and 27 seconds worth of them. We were destined to end in tragedy, she and I. A story like ours wasn't meant for happy endings. I fooled myself well enough towards the end, and perhaps she did as well to some degree. Though when the inevitable end finally arrived, she recognized it long before I was willing to. That night I glanced up from my Camel Special Light 100 and I saw her standing there. Her image filtered through the haze of smoke all around me, making her seem almost ethereal. She looked exactly as she had that first night we had met. The flies were blasting from the speakers in the back of the bar. I'd slipped that DJ a crisp $50 bill when I made my request. Their song Got You Where I Want You. It was still our song after all. Ah, hey. There I was, sitting in a room packed full of people I still cared nothing for. I let my smoke dangle from my bottom lip and I stood. I smoothed out my black and green checkered flannel, the Soundgarden tee on display beneath once again. A quick hand ran through my long dark hair on the move. The place for everything, and everything still in its place. Tell me your name. I plunged back into the filthy sea of humanity, no longer interested in the pomp and pageantry. I glided effortlessly through the throngs of college kids, barflies, and burnouts, affording them not so much as a glance. My time was far too expensive now. I grabbed 2 beers from behind the bar and gestured for Nick to put it on my tab in mutual silence. The routine remained the same. Finally, I circled her small gathering to get my bearings, paying them as little attention as I ever had. Less, if that were possible. Maybe just a smile. I slid into the recently vacated chair on her left, slipping the beers onto the table in front of us with all the usual plum. I watched her stoically at first, feeling something shift between us. When her eyes met mine, it was not accompanied by her usual smile. She left the beer unattended and turned to really look at me. For the first time, I felt almost uncomfortable beneath her gaze. Could we talk for a while? I'm Sam, I offered playfully, my attempt to fan our clearly flickering flame. I know, was her only response, aside from the emotionless void within her dark eyes. Her reply shook my confidence to the core, an alien feeling, I must admit. It was a simple move that bespoke the power she actually held over me now. She knew my name and so much more. Interested in another round? I asked, gingerly tilting my empty towards the bar. That depends, she replied, her eyes boring into me like a drill headed for the Earth's core once again. On? I asked, simply. If you can answer 3 questions correctly, I'm all yours. I'll buy that next round and we'll see where the night takes us. Her tone promised something far worse otherwise, as she laid out the rules of our exchange. This was a woman that knew exactly what she wanted in a man and wasn't interested in wasting time. Rather than flee and run screaming into the night like every fiber in my being now demanded, I played the odds. Shoot, I replied, unwisely matching the intensity of her gaze. Question 1. How long have you known? There was no hint of humor in her voice now when she spoke. She wasn't asking if I knew her secret, so much as implying that not knowing it marked me as inadequate in some way. She held me in high regard, and she was right to do so. I was nothing if not acutely perceptive. I didn't hesitate in my response. From the moment I first laid eyes on you, I'd heard some rumors, but I'd put little stock in them up until then. I just figured I'd stick around, go through the normal routine, and see what shook loose. Perhaps my complacency killed a little more than my progress this time around. I could tell by the brief flash of surprise in her face that I'd caught her off guard once again. Whatever she thought she knew, it clearly was not enough. She moved on to the next question as quickly as I'd answer the first. You sweet thing. Why the game? A gnawing fear filled me at the query, a fear that was well-deserved, all things considered. It wasn't a game to me, Amina. A curiosity at first, maybe, but never a game. After all this time, you're still not asking the right questions, I revealed reluctantly. I was a little disappointed by that. Did she know me so little after all? The things we shared, the passion. Was it love? I wasn't sure, but she acted as if it meant nothing. Perhaps I had made a mistake this evening. In every evening sense, rare, but not impossible. I was about to say my goodbyes and never darken her doorstep again when she hit me with the next and final question. Tell me your name. Are you in love with me? Her eyes narrowed as those words fell from her ruby lips, daring me to answer. Daring me to bare my soul, if creatures like me ever had one to begin with. It was a loaded question. Some way or another, all the questions she'd asked me tonight had been. If I said no, it marked me as callous. It meant I had been taking advantage of her, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. If I said yes, it made me a sucker. A sucker to think someone as magical as her could ever truly love something like me. A sucker to think we could ever ride off into the sunset without the world around us burning to ash. If I said nothing at all, somehow I knew that would be the worst option of them all. 99 times before tonight, I've met and fallen in love with you, with just as many different versions of you. I know you now, better than I will ever know myself. Am I in love with you now? I think it's more than that. It's some unknowable thing that love cannot even begin to describe, I explained. This question took even less time for me to answer than the others. There were few things I was as sure about in life or death as this. She took my hand in hers and gripped it tightly, then pulled me in to press her lips roughly against mine. The blood on her lips was still fresh. In mid-kiss, she crawled into my lap and wrapped her arms around me so tightly I couldn't breathe. Despite the strong taste of iron and cloying death, she pulled me away as my lips turned blue, pressing her forehead against mine and whispered gently, "Marry me," she whispered, cruelly. "I'm dying here." I nearly died that night. Not easy for someone like me to admit. Just before I passed out from the lack of oxygen, I felt her fangs enter forcefully into the flesh of my throat. I managed to press the button hidden in the sleeve of my flannel. A wooden stake, carved from an old white oak, exited my sleeve from a heavily modified spring gauntlet with a 50-pound draw weight. It was enough force to drop a grizzly bear. Her fangs tore my throat as she recoiled from the sound. We made brief eye contact in the split second before her body jerked back from the impact. It split the entire left side of her clavicle into pieces, and an oaken shard forced its way into her heart at an angle. Wasn't a perfect shot, but the damage was done. She screamed loud enough to crack the club's windows and burst through the door before my body hit the ground. I couldn't help but laugh inside as I considered her final words to me, drowning in my own blood and seizing from shock as I lost consciousness. I was just as surprised as the coroner when I unzipped the body bag from the inside out hours later and sat up on an old metal table. I knew immediately what she had done, what her plan had been all along. My thoughts were suddenly marred by guilt and the grief of losing her. My own fear of death had robbed me of an eternity with her. Not much has changed for me since then, aside from my appetite. I keep the same hours. I hunt mostly the same prey, and now and then there's one less pickpocket or murderer on the streets. You know, it's not the life I expected, but it's the one I deserved for my betrayal. Every now and then I still hear our song. For a while I ran from it, unable to face an eternity without her. Eventually it became a part of me, a mantra of sorts. I didn't find myself humming it from time to time, what I said about my nightly endeavors. And that's the end.
Oh my god, I love how you finished that. I hadn't read
That's
it since
great.
I'd given you some advice. Oh, that's fucking beautiful, Raz. Good job.
Thank you, man. Like, of every story I've ever wrote, like, that one was the one that I think challenged my skill level the most. And I used so many different things in that, like so many, like, odd repetition with shifts, just a lot of different characterizations, and toying around to that last moment where you find out that she's the vampire when it seemed like he was the whole time. It was fun, man.
It's beautiful. It now feels like it, because you had that kind of, when you were starting, as you were saying, there was that kind of serial killer vibe going through everything.
Because it talks a lot about routines
and the filthy and the kind of sociopathic views that the character carried around with them and stuff. But then he has that, like, so much emotion pulled in that you're like, okay, so maybe he's not a complete and utter sociopath.
Right.
Jenny.
Yep.
But
did her internet probably.
But no, but it now I still have that, like, well, maybe that's what he was doing all along still. And that, you know, he talks about his victims and the routines and this, that, and the other. So I can't really tell if it was somebody who was also a killer that was pulled in by the vampire, or, but I love the whole thing. I love the not knowing, you know.
Once you get to the point where he's got that the spring-loaded gauntlet, you realize he's a hunter. Then go back and read the beginning. He's a holy man. That's why he's better than everyone. That's why everyone is filthy. It's just you don't get that at all until after you read it, and you get that part, and you're like, "Oh, fuck."
Gotcha. And now I'll have to go back and read it when I get my copies tomorrow.
It's a really messed up thing. It's definitely a messed up thing. But I think that's. I always thought it was a tie between Mr. Jones and There's Something Different About Her was like the best things I'd written. Even the modern day ghost story I thought was like more recently the best thing I'd written until this, man. Like really seeing how it came together, and like I'm pretty convinced that this is my story, man. If people find this one, I think this is going to be the one that brings people to the rest of it. I hope.
They should. I love it. It's a great story.
Thank you.
And
Jenny's coming back.
Yay! Welcome back. In a sec. Do you need? Oh, wasn't sure if you needed
sorry.
or not.
I am not signed in on Owlite at the moment due to my computer deciding I will not connect to the internet.
No worries.
That's fine. I've been having some problems with my internet too. That's why I'm stuck back with my old DSL provider, because when I go to my new one, it says you are logged in, but there is no internet. And I'm like, what? Because my little gal over there, my Amazon Echo, whose name I will not state so she doesn't start talking to us all, is connected to my new internet, and she works just fine, but none of my other devices actually recognize it as giving me a signal. And it keeps giving me updates on Snapchat, and I'm not on Snapchat. So
that's weird.
Yeah, like I go to the device itself, and it's like, you have all these messages, and I'm like, how do I get messages on a modem? And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm pushing all these buttons. It's like, and this person posted on Snapchat. I'm like, I'm not on Snapchat. I don't delete. But yeah, so I totally understand internet issues. But Raz finished the story, and have you heard the? Well, you've seen. You've seen the end of it now.
I got to hear the whole thing. I've read it twice. I love the story.
There was another little Easter egg in there. Only once you find out her name. It's the only name you find out of anyone, and it was Amina, which is the longhand for Mina, is in Mina Harker. Because a lot of the Dracula lore later came in that when Dracula was dispatched, she became the new Dracula. There's like a lot of interesting lore and stories about that. So in my brain, this was almost in that same universe, but obviously like centuries later.
What was what was Mina's friend's name who Dracula got? I can't, for some reason, it just slips my mind. In the movie, she was played by the redhead, and she had all these different men courting her.
Oh my God, I know her.
It,
Lucy.
okay.
Lucy Westerna, I think is what it is. I'll look it up and double check.
Okay, but that's not too important. There's just I go to the casino with my mom sometimes, and there are these super fun games that are called Colossal Reels, and they have like the reels will come down here, and then there's a huge set of another reels that are super skinny that come down next to them. And so there's like 5 thick short reels that only have like 4 chances to win, and then these really tall ones that have like 15 or 20 chances to win on them. And they have a Van Helsing one. So it shows like Lucy is one of the characters on it, and Van Helsing and Dracula and stuff are the different things. So I'm always like, I want to say Mina when I'm watching it, but it's not Mina, it's Lucy that shows up on the things as one of the characters that actually counts as points if you go across. So it's like I chanted in my head so that it's like, come on, get her.
Nice.
So,
and it was Lucy Westerna. I can't believe I actually got the
wow.
Oh, Westenra. Sorry, I flipped some letters. I was wrong. I was close, but I was wrong.
Hinata came back. She's like, okay, I want to be here some more. I can back.
The very next day.
Yeah. She is, by the way, we are eventually working on becoming Chewy sponsors. And so we have discussed and shown cat things from Chewy and puppy things from Chewy. But this is, I will be showing it off soon. She is getting a cat fountain that will, because she plays in the bathtub all the time. And I get this soaking wet cat that shows up and just like shakes herself out like a dog on me and drips paws and gets me soaking wet. And like my screen gets little water drops and stuff on it. But I ordered one, and I ordered one that had an electrical cord plugging it in. I didn't really look. I am embarrassed to say, because I didn't think that anyone would actually include something with water and an electrical cord for a cat, because that's just begging to have an electrocuted cat.
Yeah.
But I found the one that I want is it's battery operated, and you just when you're done, you take off the battery and charge it, and it lasts like 30 days long. So since she's playing in the tub anyway, I'm going to turn off the drip that I've been doing and let her play with the cat fountain, so that, and we shall get some video of Hinata frolicking maybe. If she doesn't, like if I start walking in the bathroom, she's like, I wasn't here. What were you doing? And now she's like getting more used to it. So you know how your cats will follow you into the bathroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will be like, I'm going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden my cat follows me and then just jumps up on the tub and starts like messing around with the drip from the faucet, and then she'll jump in and start playing in the tub. So
Mine
that's
refuses
what I get when I
because there's a 4-year-old.
What?
Mine refuses because there's a 4-year-old.
Oh. Fair. Nice, probably, because I get kind of tired. Like, she's like chasing me in, and I'm like, Kitty, really? Do we need to have this happening right now? Can't you just like go eat your treats or something?
No.
You know, no, I really need to be there with you. I'm like, I got my books. I have a Jack the Ripper huge anthology that's basically a collection. It's like the mammoth book of Jack the Ripper. So they collected, some guy went ahead and collected all of the different books that had been written up until that point about Jack the Ripper.
You said Jacket the Ripper the first time you said it.
Oh, sorry. No, not Jacket the Ripper. Jack the Ripper.
Jacket the Zipper.
Although there's also the chance of there being Jane the Ripper or Jill the Ripper.
Jill is, I've seen Jill, yeah.
I don't see why I think like, then again,
Jack and Jill.
John Doe and Jane Doe, and so Jack and Jill. But yeah. But yeah, I have that for what do you do when you're going to the bathroom? Well, I study case files on Jack the Ripper. It is fun. It gives me inspiration for things. I accidentally found autopsy photos in my family file one time that were yeah, I'm like looking through, just like gonna organize things into like, okay, we have the family folder, we'll put them into like this part of the family, this part of the family, these events. I'm like, oh, that's Catherine Edo's autopsy photo. She's not part of the family. Need to move her over. Okay. But that's what you get when you hang out in my, you don't want to see my computer stuff, my files. They're like, hi, so Del went rambling, and this would be called major squirreling off, except for the fact that you guys let me hear. So I'm just like,
the thing is, it's going to be the two of us because reasons. And besides, Martha studies her case files in her little mother-in-law home. So
oh, cool.
That's where she keeps them.
I found out reading the book that at least when it was published, the Jack the Ripper website, the like main one that all ripperologists go to and add to and sort through and stuff, was one of the top 10 used websites on the internet at that point in time.
That does not surprise me, but now I want a picture of the cover of this book because there needs to be one for Martha.
I have a full shelf that is like a layer of books with a second layer of books and toppled books on the top of true crime, but the one that has the most representation is Jack. And I can give you a couple of different books that are like, one person wrote the definitive, basically all of the case files that have been, all of the criminology stuff that had been released. He puts forth some opinions, but it's mostly like, this is what we got when they finally released from Scotland Yard, because there was a moratorium, I believe, on information until a certain period of time goes by. That way they can't, somebody who's related to them, like their kid can't be like, oh, your dad was Jack the Ripper, or something. Yeah. But and so I have a bunch of the different books, but there's a couple like that you have to own, and then there are like 30 that you don't.
For me, one of the ones I think is most important is Patricia Cornwell's novel, Jack the Ripper Case Closed. That's one of my absolute favorites.
And I believe entirely in the diary, and I know that there's been a lot of controversy over it.
That's still a good one, though.
But it's very good, and pretty much everybody who's combated its authenticity, they've been able to be like, well, they didn't use this style of handwriting. And it was like, well, if you look into that period of time, that style of handwriting was still used, but mainly by scholars and scribes and such. They didn't actually, people just writing in their own journals didn't take the time to draw really special handwriting. Maybe on your official documents you would break out the pretty handwriting, but it wasn't used in other things. And it's very, like the details included and the tests on like, okay, how old is this ink? How old is this paper? Especially after the Hitler diaries were released and they were like turned out to be a hoax. People have gotten really big on these things. So it's like, there's a way to test not only how old the ink is and how old the paper is, but how long the ink has been on the paper. So a lot of that matches up. And the problem that they had with it was that it had been passed down in a family. I'm sorry, I'm really going into this book real quick because I'm all about it. It had been passed down by basically like the family of the housekeeper. And his life happened to be really well documented because his wife was American, he was British, his brother was a famous opera singer, and his wife ended up getting charged for his murder because he was addicted to, I can't remember, arsenic. He was addicted to arsenic, which was used as a healing thing at the time, but too much obviously kills you. So even though his doctor had taken him off arsenic, he would keep begging his wife to give it to him, even though he was killing people because of his wife. And
Right.
her initials are written in blood in Mary Jane Kelly's room, which is another kind of big, oh, wonder what that's from. Oh, it happens to match up with this guy. But everywhere he was at, he was always present in the right spot when a murder happened, because for his life to be, for them to track down everything that he did, they had to document every single aspect of his life. He was a cotton merchant, and so when he would go to be selling something and be in this area of the world and things like that, he was always there. So, but it was given to a fiction author by his ex-wife, whose family had it because she wanted to get him something to write again. She was still supportive of him. And then this whole controversy came out, and he was like, I don't know, maybe she just made it all up. And then they were like, no, really, we didn't. But there was enough that people were like, we're just going to call it a forgery and leave it at that. But
Yeah.
Okay, so please
so sorry.
first.
I'll send that to you.
And let's wrap up here. Let's tell people where to find us.
Oh, yes. You guys need to get a hold of these books. They're going to be great. They're coming out tomorrow. We'll get all of the stuff up on Fae Corps. We'll get it all up on Owlite. We'll get it up on everybody's page.
Already up on everywhere.
Yeah, it
it's
is
everywhere
actually
already. Oh my God.
I have
Go
links
there.
where
Look at
links
it.
go. But where do we find the Dell?
We find the Dell and the Ratatosker here on Owlite. I am here on Sundays for our Thank Cthulhu It Is Sunday show. I show up for the Tomb of the Terrible, which is on Mondays, where we review absolutely horrible horror movies. And hopefully some of them have some redeeming qualities. However, there are some that don't. So we watch them for you and let you know whether you actually want to see them or not. There are a couple other shows like this that I will show up on over on the Owlite Network. If I'm not here, you can also find me online at this host body that I'm hanging out in right now is Carrie, Kari Sanders. She writes some stuff. If you look her up on Facebook and you see a picture of a crow, and she's also over at the Dorkening Network for splash pages on Tuesday nights, and sometimes on the Midweek Geeks when we decide to have them go up on Wednesday nights. So keep an eye out for me there. That's all I got.
Raz, say things of any type of persuasion.
things of any type of persuasion. You can find me at raztslasher.com. Just type my name into the internet, as I always say, because Jenny has me in so many places that I don't know what they all are or how to use them.
Oh yeah, Jenny will answer all of my stuff too.
Yeah, recently I'm experimenting with Snapchat, so Raz T Slasher, that's my Snap. I cannot promise you will ever even get a picture or a video from me because I'm old and have a shitty phone. But yeah, I'm giving it a shot to kind of, I guess, try and step into another form of social media, or at least messaging, since there's always that concern that Facebook is one day not going to exist. You can find me on MySpace still too, although I haven't logged in for at least a couple months. And yes, I do still sometimes check that at random for no apparent reason. Mostly because I miss Tom, I think. Definitely miss Tom. But yeah, you can find me in all those places. And yeah, and your mom's house. Don't forget that. Find me there.
Apparently he likes graveyards a whole lot.
Yep.
So my main
travel.
my main is Friday with the Library in the Blue Box. My group is Friday Blues Disorganized Library, and you can find me on Fae Corps, on Dell's page, on Raz's page. Just comment and I'll either answer or help you get whatever you had asked for from them if I don't know it already. Either way, please read the anthologies. Please check out Silence is Crimson Homecoming. And read everything else Fae Corps has to offer. I am in the process of doing so.
Oh, it's me again. You can also find Dell in commercials from the 90s where you'll be promptly reminded that, dude, you're getting a Dell.
Exactly.
And that was Rantosker being drunk for y'all's
Okay.
entertainment.
I love that. That was perfect, actually.
Good night, beautiful people.
Good night,
Spam it to your
everybody.
friends.